and deliver your speech. So we'll look quickly at each one, because I have 10 minutes to do 4 areas, so a little bit of each one. So let's start with the big picture. We already looked at the first part already, the know your objectives. Remember the pathway, know your pathway objectives, know your personal objectives, and know your mentor's objectives. Next, we have select your topic. Okay, once you have written down, you see what your objectives are, then you need to come up with a topic to talk about. It doesn't have to be perfect yet, but you have to have at least a general idea of what you want to talk about so you can start figuring out how to fine tune it. Next up is know your audience. You could get away without doing this in Toastmasters because you know most of the people in the club. But when you get out in the real world, it's very important to have an understanding of who you're going to be speaking to. And even in Toastmasters, certain topics that you talk about, it can be really helpful to know what the members in the club, what they know, and what kind of questions or what are they interested in learning. And the way I do that is I do a survey, and I have everybody fill out the survey. And so if anybody you find out, someone in our club is asking you to fill out a survey for their speech, please take the time to do it, okay? Also, don't put 40, 50 questions on the questionnaire, okay? Just 5, 6, something like that. But that way to get some ideas to help you decide what you're specifically going to talk about. That's very helpful. Then you need to research your topic and fine tune it. So this is the time when you're wrestling with it and figuring out exactly what you want to say. And then you want to know your purpose. Okay? What do you want your audience to think, feel, or do after they listen to your speech? So you write in a sentence, simple sentence, and write it out what the purpose is. In those things I told you from the Pathway projects, 1, 2, 3, 4, the first 4 projects, there's information in there about how to write a purpose statement. Okay, let's move on now to writing a speech. Okay, you need to make an outline and create a title. That's how we start out. Then you need to do opening and closing, body of the speech and transitions, and then fine-tune the opening and closing, and last but not least, fine-tune the body and the transitions. Now, you don't have to start with doing the opening and closing, but I tell you what, those are the 2 most important things in a speech, is how you open and how you close. So make the effort to learn about those things. I try to do that. I try to start with the opening and closing because it's not easy. You're kind of taking a guess to get started, and then you work on the body. But a lot of people, they start with the body, then they do the opening and closing. Try them both. Try them out and see which one works for you. It's also going to depend on how much knowledge you have about the speech you're going to give. That'll depend on what you want to start with too. But like I said, I kind of like to take a guess at where do I want to start and where do I want to finish, and just have a general idea. Then work on the body. Then I go back and fine tune the opening and closing after that. So that gives you an idea of how to go about doing that. Now make sure transitions are important too. That you know that you say words that help people realize that you're moving on to the next point. Okay, practice your delivery. First, you want to get comfortable with the words. I think this is the most important thing that people need to do when they start practicing. Don't practice your delivery yet, just practice saying the words. Get comfortable with the words. Then, work on purposely using body gestures. Now what happens is, why I say get comfortable with the words, is because once you start doing the gestures, if you haven't gotten the words down yet, you're going to find it a bit confusing trying to do 2 things at once. Have you ever noticed people when they give their icebreakers a lot of times? They really struggle because they're so focused on remembering the words, they don't know how to do the delivery, right? Have you guys seen that? Okay. So work hard at getting the words down first, and then practicing the delivery with the words. You'll find that much more helpful. Then, using the speaking area. After you do the gestures, then add the speaking area in, and then also using your voice and your emotions. That's important. If you're up here saying, you know, I'm really excited about what I'm going to talk about today. Do you think that's going to impress people? I am excited today. Have some emotion. And again, if you haven't worked on getting the words down, you're so focused on those that you're not using your voice to get that emotion in there. So learn about that. Okay, then practicing the delivery. Okay, sorry, the practice. Sorry about that. So that was our practicing the delivery. Let's move on now to delivering the speech. Okay, prepare for the speech. What do you do before you start speaking? Do you need to get your laptop set up? Do you have to use a display? Are you going to use props so you get them set up? So anything you need to do before you start speaking, you want to get that done early so that you can relax beforehand. Because if you're struggling to get your laptop working right up to the moment you speak, that's very stressful. So try to come early enough to do that. Also, meet and greet before you speak. This is more for when you go outside Toastmasters, but it's really helpful if you get there early and you get everything set up and people start coming in and you start talking to people. I found that very helpful. I did a training at Pentalog, and a lot of the people came early, and I was asking them, are you guys afraid of speaking? Oh, yeah. I told them the embarrassing things I did in my life when I did speeches, and they just started laughing. And so when I was doing the training, they're really connected with me because they had that interaction beforehand. Besides, even in Toastmasters, if you're stressing out about your speech, maybe just go around talking to the other members will calm you down a little bit before you give your speech. Then you give the speech, and then you gather and evaluate the feedback. And then you make goals for your next speech. And then, like we said, we already looked at some of this stuff before, but now let's go on to looking exactly at what goes on. I'm saying those are the steps involved. But you know what? I just want you to know that I introduced it, I gave you an overview, a few ideas. But use that paper that I'm going to give you to use it to learn about those things. These are the things I need to learn, and then practice them and get better at them, speech by speech. You'll find it much easier that way. So that's our look at the speech preparation steps.